but it's pretty safe. I've seen like documentaries of like women walking across Iran and being fine,
Hmm.
but it has a lot to do with like Middle Eastern honor culture. Like, oh crap, there's a foreign woman. Like, okay, the entire village is gonna get together and like protect her and like make sure nothing happens to her
Hmm.
because if she dies, we're all gonna look really bad.
Yeah, that was
Um,
a thing. I mentioned this on stream a while ago, and I've seen more conservatives. I've got a conservative friend, and she tells me about like in some like very fundamentalist places in the Middle East, she was surprised that they're like that honor culture extends in ways that you wouldn't imagine. I brought this up on stream before. One of the things she told me is that like if you are like hungry in any Middle Eastern country, for a lot of these like very Islamic places, if you go to any like store owner or shop, you can say like, hey, like I'm really hungry, feed me, and they'll do it for free. Just it's like one of the
yes,
pillars of Islam and shit. Like,
absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
so that was interesting.
Yeah, no, I mean I've been to Saudi, all sorts of like weird places. But yeah, they are very charitable in the Middle East, and it brings them a lot of honor to invite you to dinner and feed you as much as they can, with like they'll invite you over and then spend like a week's salary on the dinner, um, and which is just insane. Like because it just brings them honor. Like
Sure.
and
Which is a big
I mean
difference
it's
to.
like
Have you ever heard of any of the like? I was on a podcast with a couple comedian guys, and they were telling me about tea scams in Asian countries.
oh yeah
Have you heard? I'd never heard about this before. I'm
yeah
glad I heard about this before I fell scam to this. But like, yeah, basically some strangers like, hey, like we want to practice our English. Can we come? Do you want to come drinking tea with us? And then you go and you drink tea and you're having fun. But you didn't realize is that they took you to a friend's shop where when they give you the bill, it's like $7,000 for tea, and you're like, what the fuck? And you yeah.
yeah that kind of stuff happens.
Hmm.
It's usually not like 7,000, but it's usually like you know 4 or 5 times more than like what tea should ever
Sure.
cost. Yeah.
Hmm.
I've definitely like had some friends who have had some sketchy stuff happen to them. Once a buddy of mine, because so when I lived in China, beer was fucking dirt cheap. It was the equivalent of you'd get these big bottles, um, and they were like 2 or 3 kwai at the time, which was like 30 to 40 cents.
Hmm.
And so like anytime you'd go to the bar, you'd just be like, you wouldn't care. You'd buy as much beer as you want.
Hmm.
So like one night a friend of mine had gone to a bar and just started buying beers, and he probably bought like I don't know, 40 beers that night for people.
Okay.
And then the bill comes, and they charged him like $20 per beer, and he was just like, I'm not fucking giving you like $1,000, $2,000 or whatever they were asking. Like that's ridiculous.
Hmm.
And he like went to the embassy and things like that, and the U.S. embassy's like, we can't help you, dude. Like, I'm sorry. Like, pay the bill and leave, and leave. And so he did. He paid the bill and left the country, and he like hated China ever since.
Hmm. Jeez.
And I had another friend who like went to a bar once in Vietnam where he bought some drinks, and it was the bill came and it was like $1,000, and they're like these big bouncers
Oh,
like
jeez.
surrounded him, and he was like, okay, cool, and he played it really cool, and was like, yeah, and he's like grabbed another beer, and he was like hanging out, and then like the minute like one of the bouncers kind of looked away, he darted out the door and like just ran like hell, and like they ran after him, and he got away. And he was
Nice.
like I was like, fuck.
Well,
That kind of stuff happens, but for the most part, you might get those like little like scammy games.
hmm.
Like I've been pickpocketed and stuff, but I'll tell you that I've been mugged or attempted mugged 5 times in my life,
Jesus.
and 4 of those times were in America.
Okay.
And so granted, I spend more of my life in America, but like I do still think that like America is one of the most dangerous countries in the world.
Hmm.
It doesn't get much more dangerous than America. Like
Yeah.
yes, you can choose a war zone, but like
That's
you
that's
know
like
where,
always been my big contention whenever because it'll be Americans that'll say other places are like super crime ridden or like really fucked up. Like for a long time in the U.S., people were obsessing over like Sweden, and I have you ever been to Sweden before?
I have.
Have you ever been to Malmo before?
No.
Super beautiful city in southern Sweden. Very nice place. Like, yeah, and I finally went there, and I'd heard so many horror stories. Like, Malmo is a war zone, no-go zones everywhere. It's a horribly fucked up place. And I'm like, damn, dude, like I've lived in Miami, I've lived in LA, I've lived in all, like, this is nothing. This is not even remotely what I thought this would be. Yeah, or like walking around places and I'm worried that like, would I get like fucking shot here or whatever? And if you say this in Europe, people look at like you like you're fucking crazy. Like, no, what do you mean you're not gonna get fucking shot? What are you talking about? I was like, I don't know. It just seems like a place where people would have guns, you know? And they're like, no, what do you think, this is a fucking war zone? It's like, oh, okay, yeah.
There's completely different mindsets. So I lived in Frankfurt, Germany for 3 years. And first of all, like, Germans are like, oh, I'm so sorry you lived in Frankfurt. Frankfurt's so industrial. And it's like, what are you fucking, like, Frankfurt is this beautiful green city with like churches. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. If we were in America, we'd be like, oh my God, it's paradise. But like to a German, it's like this industrial, like horrible, ugly city. And you're like, what? Like, and you like, they go to the parks at night. And there's not like lights in the parks. It's pitch black. And they have picnics in the parks at night. Like kids just go to the parks and like drink. Like, and it's like, you know, like living in DC, like I grew up in Baltimore, and like living in DC, like, and like, no way, like you just wouldn't do that. Like, well, either a cop would come along and tell you to fucking move along, or you get mugged or something, you know. But the fact that like
exact reason,
you know, everybody just, you can just walk safely. Like, it's just so different. You see like 5-year-old kids walking to school by themselves in Germany. Sure. Like in the city. You know, it's just, it's so weird how safe and wonderful like places on Earth can be. And like what we're deprived as Americans of. So yeah, it's kind of sad. It's like Americans don't understand how good other places are. You know, they kind of hide behind the shield of like, all these immigrants come here because America is the most free place and it's the land of opportunity. And it's like, yeah, I guess, you know, like it's the big game, and there's a lot of money to be made in America, but like I feel sorry for Americans sometimes when I think about like the freedom that I have like in other places, like to walk the streets at night and not have to worry about like getting mugged. Like, yeah, it's really hard for me to undo it, you know? Like, my heart still beats because of the times I've had a gun put to my face, you know? So
I think the things that I'm always, the guy that I became the most kind of fascinated with was public transit in other places, which I never really thought much about until in 2013 I lived in Sweden, not Sweden, I lived in Poland for 3 months. And the joke, like, is always, especially back then, is like Poland is like a shithole Eastern European country that wishes they weren't Eastern European, like just a horrible place, blah blah blah. And it's like I lived in Warsaw for 3 months, and I never felt like I needed a car ever. And then I noticed that now, like I lived in Sweden for a while, Poland, any European country, you can get anywhere. I can plug in like Google Maps. I need to go to some place. And it's like, oh cool, like here's the bus, you know, here's the subway, here's in London you take the tube everywhere, and yeah, I don't know. I get really envious of that. Like in the United States, you can't walk anywhere. You need a car to go everywhere, and that's pretty fucking annoying. It makes a lot of things really inaccessible. Demands that you make car payments every month because you have to have a car, gas, all this dumb shit. Like it's kind of annoying.
I love Poland. Poland's great. I love the pre-game bars. You know, where you just go in for a drink and like a plate of pickled herring, and it's like nothing. It's like why do people go to the other bars when these bars are great?
Yeah. I think my favorite Polish moment was in Warsaw. I had a guy honk on me, or he honked at me because I was in his way. I was walking on the sidewalk, but he like, I don't know if they do that often in Warsaw, but he just like popped up on the sidewalk. He was like in a really small way, popped on the sidewalk, was driving, he honked at me. I was like, I don't know where I'm supposed to be walking, but okay, yeah. But what a place. That and then all of the streets and all the names and all the, like, I can always tell if I'm reading Polish because like every word will like randomly have like it'll be like a Polish word will be like POLICHZYCHK, and I'll be like, I don't know how the fuck I'm supposed to pronounce any of these fucking words. And every single street, every single thing is like, okay, dude.
You ever watched JJ McCullough's YouTube channel? He's this Canadian, slightly conservative guy who like does cultural videos. They're very good. But he did one recently on how it's really arbitrary that we keep certain languages spelling the same when we print them in English, and other countries we don't. Like, so for instance with Polish, we'll keep, because they use a Roman alphabet, we'll keep their names in the Polish spelling, even though it gives us no clue on how to pronounce it. But for a Russian name, we'll switch it from Cyrillic to Roman, or with Chinese, we're going to switch it from the characters to Roman, even though like Polish, like it's not going to help you. It's not going to like the Roman letters aren't going to fucking help you.
Yeah. Although in the end of it, a lot of it gets weird. At the end of the day, I think some of it is like that when I was playing, I guess so you can read some Chinese.
Yeah, no, I can read pretty well. Yeah.
I don't know if it's the same in Chinese.
I can read actually better than I can speak because
sure.
It's harder to learn, but it's also harder to forget.
Yeah,
so
okay.
I can read pretty well. Yeah.
For a while when I was doing StarCraft, I wanted to learn how to read and speak Korean. And after you learn like the Korean alphabet,
now the Korean thing makes sense.
Sure.
Okay.
After you learn how to
because of the StarCraft. Okay.
Yeah, after you learn how to read Korean, looking at I don't know if it's the same with Chinese, but like I can know how to say something like phrases or words or whatever in Korean. But if you look at the Romanized version of it, which I think is what they call it when they try to write it in English, I have no fucking idea what the fuck I'm looking at after you've learned the symbols, because the English writing of it out is so unbelievably complicated and it doesn't really carry over as well. Yeah, but I guess you wouldn't. Yeah, I would say, like, I guess you're not going to just write the symbols and expect people to be able to read them, but nobody's reading, like, that smorgasbord of, like, fucking letters that's supposed to represent, like, the characters anyway, you know?
Yeah, even Taipei, like, in China, they would spell it Taipei.
Okay.
They would spell it, they would use a B instead of a P. But the Taiwanese, like, keep the P because they want to be different from China. But...
Nice.
But, yeah, really random
Reminds
stuff.
me of the difference between Kiev and Kiev or whatever,
Yeah. But it's like the first Romanization of Chinese was a Romanization of the Manchurian language, like, and how they would pronounce things. And so this is why we get like Peking instead of Beijing, because Peking was closer to what the Manchurians would say, and then we Romanized it that, and then it's just kind of stuck. And so Taipei is on this old system called Wade Giles instead of Pinyin.
Interesting.
It's but yeah, I always think it'd be funny if I were like a teacher or a professor, like you get your list of names for the kids, and you know that you're gonna offend somebody because you know you're gonna mispronounce somebody's name, right? And even my last name, I say this all the time, like the name Jacobs, it wasn't pronounced Jacobs, okay? Like it was originally Jacobs, but over time in America, everyone's just like, fuck it, all right? We're fucking Jacobs, okay? Sure. Like it's fine. And there's a lot of people's names like that. Like I used to work with somebody with the last name YU, and in Chinese that's Yu, but it kind of in English that sounds like ew, so everyone says you. But his name should be Yu, but you don't know how much he's converted or whatever. Or once for work, there's the Spanish name Luz, right, which means light.
Okay.
I once had to meet somebody that I'd never met before in person, so I didn't know what she looked like. And I was supposed to meet her, and I'm waiting for her, and I see another woman who looks Hispanic, and I walk up to her, and I'm like, "Excuse me, are you Luz?" And she's like, "What? No." And then I was like, "Okay." And then I realized later, I walked up to a woman and asked her if she was Luz.
Oh, yeah.
You know? And everybody else called her Luz.
Okay.
I think because they didn't want to call her Luz, right?
Gotcha, yeah.
But yeah, it's all kind of like rant. Like if I were a teacher or a professor, like I would just mispronounce everyone's name comically, and then no one could be mad at me.
That kind of reminded me of like. I was gonna say I worked at a casino for a while, and people would call out like they were so used to it that we had a huge Vietnamese population, and every now and then somebody would say like Andy Nguyen, and they would still look like, oh yeah, that's me. It's like, I guess I'm just giving up.
It is true, especially with that name. That name, Nguyen, or who's gonna Nguyen? Like it's so fucking hard to pronounce it correctly.
I think people just say Wen usually because it's for English or whatever. But yeah, but there will still be people that are like, oh, Nguyen or whatever. That
or like I'm Nugent, or something. Yeah. It's But I just even if their name was like John Smith, I'd be like, Jan Smythe? Yeah. They'd be like, who? Oh, I'm sorry, I got it wrong. Because then when I mispronounce the Polish person's name or whoever, They can't be that mad at me. I was like, well, I mispronounced everybody's name. I'm sorry. You know?
Fuck them all up, yeah.
Oh man.
Well.
Oh no, that's funny because now that you're yeah, I was like, I pieced it together. I was like, wait, you lived in Korea for a month, and then I was like, oh, the StarCraft.
Yeah.
Gotcha. That was that must have been. They sure like to drink in Korea. I don't know if you got to do any
in
of
every
that, or if
Asian
it was-
country, they don't have other drugs, but holy fuck, do they get fucked up? Yeah. Yeah, in
Oh my
Korea, the
God.
big thing is, or their version, I think like Japan, it's sake, and Korea, it's soju, the Korean liquor or whatever.
Interesting.
But yeah, they can
I
put
mean,
it
you
away
just
there.
misdirect and
Oh God. So
misdirect and.
I have this one story I have
yeah.
to tell. Even
Oh, yeah,
it's
could
completely irrelevant, but like I just remember when I was in Korea,
Interesting.
I ran into this guy, and
Very
he was, I think he was from
interesting.
Germany, but he just loved Korea, which
Okay.
was a weird thing because people either 90% of the people that live in Korea hate it, because
Oh,
it's
I changed
Korea's pretty sexist and racist, like and
Do they
kinda
really hate it
xenophobic.
though?
Well, some people like the challenge, and then
Wait, when you
10%
say 90% of people, do you mean like
so
native people? Or do you mean like foreigners?
No, I mean foreigners. I mean
Okay, okay.
foreigners. No, Koreans are gonna like their own country.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The foreigners that live in Korea, like 90% hate it, and 10% fucking love it. And there's these weirdos that like fucking love Korea,
Okay.
because it's a really xenophobic country.
Okay.
I mean, people say that the young population is changing, and I understand this, but like, it's the only country I've been to where I tried to go into a bar and they're like, no foreigners, fuck off.
Okay.
Like, a guy really said to me, no foreigners, fuck off, and I was like, ooh.
Heard this happens in Japan too. I've had this happen in South Korea when me and another friend kind of were there, where a guy screamed at him and spit at him on the bus. Naniwa, but yeah, because he was white.
Yeah.
I had a friend, streamer Wreckful, who I guess in Japan sometimes when you walk by a white person, people will walk by you and go, they'll like cough like you're dirty or something.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So yeah, Asian countries are a little racist, it seems.
Japan,
but,
yeah, they're kind of they're kind of wusses in Japan. Like they will do that, but it's like subtle, you know. While Korea, they're ready to fight you, you know. So
Jesus, fuck.
but I just remember like we met this German guy and we're like, hey, what's it like living here? And he's like, oh, I love it. You know, there's different he literally said like, oh, there's different cultures, but
Come
you
on,
know,
man. I need some
every culture is
Oh,
beautiful."
motherfucker,
And then he
dude.
proceeded to tell
Jesus.
this
I've just
fucking
been.
story.
Oh boy.
He's like,
I've had like 4 runs
you know,
on a
once we were gonna
DC
go
that
out,
just.
and so I
tanked
invited
either
my friends over
DC'd
to my
or
apartment, and we all started drinking.
A
and we
person
started
DC'd
drinking,
and
we had a
wiped the
great
group,
time.
but then we just
And
couldn't
then,
make it past.
You know, they suggested that we go to the brothels, and I was like, okay, yes, let's go to the brothels, but first, let's clean up my apartments before we leave. And I was like, such a German, right? Like, you know, clean up the apartment.
Shit being weird. I don't like it.
The Koreans that were with him were like, we don't want to like waste like 30 minutes
up, JJ?
like, cleaning up your fucking place. Like, they literally called up their wives.
Need a blood
Their wives came over
Blood
to
decay
clean up the
primo.
German's apartment while they all went out to the brothel.
Jeez.
And the guy was like proceeding to tell me like that this was such a beautiful, wonderful thing, and that I'm like me and my friend are just like staring at this guy like, you are the grossest, stickest motherfucker. Like, how fucking like what? Like, you just, oh my god! Like, it just gave me the willies.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
That he'd use that as like the shining example of how wonderful Korea was.
Nice. Yeah. Korea is definitely, in a lot of ways, is like hyper insane at a lot of the shit they do. Do you know anything about like K-pop or whatever?
Oh yeah.
Like the hyper ultra capitalist version of like pop music, and then like, I know I hear a lot about like the obsession with plastic surgery. Is insane. Korea was ahead.
Have you ever seen a birthday beatdown?
No, what's that?
Oh, there's a rag.
So, with some groups of bro friends, and I've seen a couple birthday beatdowns.
It's all right.
It's a tradition.
What you up to today, JJ? You playing some video games?
Beat the shit out of your friend on his birthday.
Interesting.
You got May?
Right. Like
Yeah,
I've seen, like,
Malia.
I've never like some people. I've heard stories about broken bones. I've never seen one, but the ones I've seen were like solid punches to the face, where like the guy had like bloody lip, black guy. One of them I saw, they grabbed him and they threw him. I was living in this dorm, and they threw him up, and he hit the ceiling, which was probably maybe only 7 or 8 feet. And then they all like stepped away, and he like fell flat to the ground, like after getting thrown in the air. Like they just let him fall like 8 feet to the ground onto the hard floor. I was like, what the fuck? These are your friends, dude. And they're like, it's his birthday, man. We gotta
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
did you get
Or,
any,
you know, as you get older, you're just supposed to pay for everyone that's younger than you as well, which is weird. Like, if you're the oldest in a group of friends, you pay for all the younger people.
Interesting.
So you're broke.
Have you ever heard of love hotels?
Oh, yeah. Very popular in Japan.
Yeah,
I
apparently
lived
in
in
Korea
Japan
too.
about 3 months. Yeah.
Okay, good. Apparently, a lot of people.
Because everyone lives with their parents.
They live with their parents. So if you want to bang somebody, you have to go to like special hotels that you go to. Like,
Yeah.
have
So
sex with, you know.
here in Taiwan,
Okay.
if you wanna fuck your girlfriend, yeah. So you get a karaoke room, and then you can do whatever you want there, and pretend you're doing karaoke. Yeah. I mean, what else are you gonna do? I mean, everyone lives in really small houses with their parents, and so, in fact, when I lived in Japan, I had a separate apartment. Like, but my landlady was still uncomfortable with me bringing my girlfriend home, and like, she like suggested like, maybe you could go to a love hotel. I'm like,
Internet going fucking haywire, or is that?
Yeah.
my apartment. I fucking moved it for a day. Like, they were just embarrassed that I was like a foreigner living home, like,
That's,
you know, a Japanese person.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what's fun. That's what's fun about travel. It's just so
Wait, give me 1 second. Your audio's lagging for a second. Hold on.
okay.
Okay. Hello.
Hey there.
Okay.
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 Yeah.
Eden
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I love about the travel is that, like,
Five,
every good
four,
story I have
three,
starts with, like,
two,
when I was in blank.
one.
Well, like, you know, I mean, it sounds a bit, like, douchey and pretentious, but at the same time, like, it's better to have a douchey and pretentious story than no story at all.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But, you know, it's been good, you know. Even the really weird places, the really bad places.
Oh, we're just gonna go straight.
What's like been your scariest like? Yeah, what's like your scariest travel story? I guess where have you been?
I was in Afghanistan for so like when you stay,
Watch your feet.
you stay
Wait.
Watch your feet. Watch your feet.
Yeah.
I didn't know this to be the
The,
preferred route.
It's yeah, I mean there's like some so you know,
Is for me.
Okay,
Maybe he's
there's a big
talking about, like,
difference
not
between
roast it?
people lob shit at the embassy. I'm imagining like rocks, and you're like, did you say rockets?
no, they're like homemade rockets.
Okay, homemade rockets.
Yeah, you get these players and they kill people. And once like it was like my first day in, I was in an unhardened building. So like most buildings, like they're built like if a rocket hits them, they're protected. They're bunkers essentially. But like because it was so crowded, sometimes you'd be in a trailer, like another trailer, and they say unhardened or soft targets. And so like you know, one night, like I was just out of it, and like the incoming alarm came on, and I like everyone left the room to go to the bunker, and I just like rolled over and went back to sleep.
Yeah.
And like the next morning,
Bro, it's literally
everyone's
sad.
like, "Oh man, I can't believe that like alarm in the middle of the night." And I was like, "What? Wait, what?
How?
Alarm? Oh, fuck." You know, like I don't know. That's probably the scariest, but. I mean, there was a time where I was like nearly mugged and used and stuff like that. I'm trying to think of anything else. Oh, there's a time in Eritrea where like my wife and I were like walking to the airport.
Watch your feet.
And we walked through this field. Like it was literally like a field.
Okay.
And it was the middle of the night because our flight was early in the morning, like 3:30 in the morning. So we're like, okay, we're not gonna get a night. Like we're not gonna get a hotel room. So let's just like walk back to the airport. And we just walking through this field, and these like soldiers come out and start screaming at us, and they've got machine guns and everything.
Yeah.
And we're like, like we're just going to the airport, and they're like screaming at us, and it, you know, finally one comes out. It turns out we walked through a military base.
Oh, jeez.
And look, it was just a fucking field. Like they were like literally came out of like shacks.
Where these guys are fucking hiding
And
at.
they're like, they're screaming at us with machine guns, and like, and you know, it was we'd walk through a military base by accident, even though it looked like a field. So that was pretty scary. That I almost got
I always have a fear of getting like arrested or fucking up in some foreign country. And you just, I know my rights in the U.S. are really well. I'm pretty sure if you get arrested in a country, it's like, fuck, there's nothing you can do, yeah.
bad. It's really bad. And a lot of people like use like Thailand or whatever as a vacation place, and they use a lot of, they do a lot of drugs, and in fact, like you're going to a place where you have no rights.
Yeah,
they can do whatever they
drugs
want.
and Asian countries is a very, very scary combination. Be very careful.
Yeah, and you know, it's really easy when everyone around you is doing it.
And how?
And like, there's been times where I've like stumbled into it accidentally. Once I was traveling in Laos years ago, and a buddy of mine was just looking to buy some weed or whatever. And so he like goes up to him and he's like, oh, you know, smoke? And she's like,
Why are we doing the haste? You guys
like,
suck?
pulls us
Do you guys
inside.
suck? Is that what you need?
Completely, like, takes us into
We don't already have a bloodlust?
Like, it's just,
We need a haste
carpets
and a bloodlust?
pillows. And she's like,
You gotta be
okay.
fucking
We're
joking
like,
me,
and we
bro.
were like, no,
Fuck.
I'm sorry.
I hate
I'm sorry.
actual nimwits.
Fear
They're so
incoming.
fucking
We
stupid.
like left and we're like, phew.
AOE
And then like the next
incoming.
day we found out that there was like some like government bust, and they grabbed a bunch of kids and like asked them for thousands of dollars and shit like that, and scared the hell out of them. And we're like, oh god, like, that can just happen. And, you know, it's, yeah, know your rights.
Watch
know where
your
you
feet.
are. Like if you're in Denmark and Christiana or something, that's
Fear
fine.
incoming.
Oh shit! I was just gonna ask you if you'd ever been there before. Have you been?
I have. I've been to Christiana.
That's an actual aneurysm.
Yeah. Yeah, for your streamers, you know, it's a ex-military base that a bunch of hippies squatted in, and no one, like, they've been squatting for years, and no one knows how to kick them off. And there's legalized drugs.
And you guys had fucking haste?
Well, I
You
wouldn't say
guys
legalized,
suck.
but anytime like any police or whatever move through, like people will,
Decredit,
yeah, people basically just do whatever.
Fucking weird, another weird story. When I was in Denmark, one of the nice, wonderful things, Danes, like, there's a beautiful summer night, and like all the Danes go to the park to get drunk and stuff, and it's a wonderful time. We're all drunk and all. It gets to be like, 3 in the morning, and crowds are breaking up, and this Norwegian guy.
Oh, so good. Sick, I
Place
love
where I was
it.
staying fell through. I
No
built this
man,
sleeping
still. How amazing.
God, and my friend who lives in Denmark. You need to sleep on my couch. I was like, oh, that'd be great. And so he goes and he sleeps on the couch. Next morning, he's like, we expect you, like, you sleep on
fuck
somebody's
out.
couch. Get out in the morning, you know? Like, I've slept on people's couches before. It's a great service. Like, thank you, but I'm out before you wake up. Like, I leave a thank you note. He's lingering. Yeah, we go get breakfast. You gotta go. And he's like, oh, can I get breakfast?
There's no way. We're gonna actually have to do it.
So now we've got this
Like, unironic. There's no shot.
and we're like, yeah. So what do you do for a living? And he's like, oh, I'm a drug dealer. So I'm like, what? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, yeah. go to Christiana, I take like I swallow it, and then I go back to Manila, and I could sell it for like 4 times what I buy it for. And I do about 3 trips a year, and that like is enough for me.
Fear incoming.
How does that work?
AOE
Like, he's
incoming.
like, oh, you know, I take them and I like wrap them in cellophane a bunch, and then I like, you know, soak them down with water.
Yeah.
Huh. So like in the movies, they always use condoms. He's like, yeah, I used to use condoms, and then one broke, and I was high for 4 days.
Actually,
clearly
acid
wanted to
this
make
game.
friends with my friend because he wanted a place to sleep, but like the next time he came, like, yeah, so he kept like
Fear
hitting
incoming.
him up. It was like, no, we don't want drug dealers in our lives.
Yeah, it's a bit heavy.
Watch your feet.
Jesus, bro.
Watch
Oh
your feet.
man.
We just don't
any,
have
got
EPS.
another podcast schedule in like 5 minutes.
I don't know why the fuck they did the haste, bro. It's actually so fucking
Oh
dumb.
man. No, it was fun. Thanks for having me on and letting me share.
Yeah. You want to link your channels if you want to find it?
Yeah, sure. It's my name, Preston Jacobs. How do you just want me to let me see it? Send me a link there? You can just Google
This is such a long fight.
or you can just
8-minute
Preston
fight.
Jacobs on YouTube
Honestly,
and,
I think if we just
it's mostly-
fucking had
mostly some
we would have
fire
been able to
stuff, then
burst.
I do a weekly.
I genuinely think the haste didn't do
live stream on
shit.
politics and such,
Or at least it didn't
and
seem like it
talk,
did.
And that's about it, you know.
More usages on cooldowns is way more important than fucking
Yeah, I appreciate the chat. Have fun.
just like
Oh,
no, I
constantly
appreciate
being able
you,
to
having me
auto
on,
attack
man.
faster. It's like
This
stupid.
is fun. Thanks so much.
Shockwave.
Be right back. And then talking to a guy. His name is Tyler. Apparently, this is the guy that was talking to Shapiro in that video. The abortion
Shockwave.
conversation. Bam.
Shockwave. Dispel. Shockwave. Shockwave.
Also,
Shockwave.
straight. Where is it? Bam. Minus.
Shockwave.
Great on second.
Never seen this.
I will be right back.
Shockwave.
Wait. Did I miss one? Missing my front one? Front one was that one, right? Right?
Shockwave.
Bam.
Shockwave.
Wait, oh my god, I'm talking to myself! Wait, how much did I just say?
Roblox
Did
sound
anybody hear
effect.
anything?
Shockwave.
Outside. There was a guy, Izumi. Oh, I say a guy, a girl. A guy is trying to fuck up. Izumi donated $100 earlier, and I skipped it because I was listening to the guy talking. I want to interrupt him. Sorry. Izumi donated $100 and said, "Just finished watching the manifesto reading and wanted to say thank you for saying a lot of the stuff I've been feeling as a trans person. It means a lot. Thank you so much. Thank you, Izumi."
Shockwave.
Wait, I introduced the next talker, the Tyler guy, right? Did I say who that was? You guys heard me say that, right?
Shockwave.
Yes.
Obama.
Okay. Bam!
Shockwave.
Just got my bachelor in electromechanical engineering after a bit more years than usual. Thought I'd celebrate by something. Love the content, my guy. And you too, chat. Americans. Love from a Eurocut with nicer cities and a better nightlife.
Shockwave.
The coping mode is a Pepe, not a Yi. That's because Pepe
Shockwave.
posters are coping hard. He wins.
Shockwave.
No.
Shockwave. Shockwave.
Empowered.
Watch your step. Shockwave. Watch your step. Shockwave. Watch your step. Watch your step.
Oh my, I missed it. I'm fucked. Oi. Oi. Down. Yep. Go.
Keep hating your life then, working class Andy.
Bam!
MFW, I wasn't mentioned as contributor to Manifesto, even though I think Steven is very important for them streamable and got banned out.
Dispel.
Bam!
Watch your feet.
It's gonna be hella close.
Stay away from lines. Shockwave. Stay away from lines.
No more. White name for you, my guy.
Stay away from lines. Run out. Run out. Stay away from lines.
I don't see one of them. It's the
Empowered.
one.
Stay away from lines. Run out. Stay away from lines. Stay away from lines.
First possible fucking time this. Holy shit. I mean, that run back definitely fucked us. That probably took away like, unironically, like a half a minute to overwin it.
Stay away from lines.
An 8-minute fucking fight. Jesus. I just feel like we just won.
Stay away from lines.
We're not doing bad damage.
Stay away from lines.
No way that hit me, bro. Actually, no way.
Stay away from lines.
Fucking sweet. Oh, fuck. No.
Stay away from lines.
GG's, bro. You didn't have nothing? Oh. Yeah, I don't know what the hunter did wrong, to be honest. But it's unfortunate.
Obama.
I will say I definitely got caught on that boss, but like, damn, bro, that shit's sad. I just feel like we just weren't doing any fucking damage on the first boss. We did like a 9-minute fucking fight, and they had the haste buff. Like, bro, if you're gonna have the haste buff, you better pop off all that shit.
Hell,
Obama.
hell, 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 hell.
It just seems so unnecessary. Just fucking get let everyone have their cooldowns back faster. If it's gonna be an 8-minute fight, we'd probably run 3 fucking cooldowns. Unironically, versus like 2,
Obama.
or not getting to the 3rd. That just seems stupid, bro.
Yeah.
Obama.
I'm just getting absolutely unlucky with these. So what caused me? I think I was running to it unnecessarily. I'm fucking ranged. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like we actually 100% could have recovered from that. Because, like, if that guy would have used his fortifying brew, we would have been fine, actually, on it, like, completely. He just didn't increase his HP by 15 and reduce damage taken by 15, while, like, I was in... Angel mode. But, you know. Let's see how much the Icar had a factor. It didn't seem like it did, but no, he did well.
going to fight that?
I'm going to kill that.
Biggest man I've ever seen.
Dispel boss. Dispel boss.
I don't know. I was expecting it to go on Desi.
People are saying this article is baseless. I've gotten 2 emails about it. Do they mean baseless as in like? Because I don't know how you can say that the idea that like having gender preferences is baseless when it seems like I also like a couple of like super popular tweets like showing the same sentiment.
Run
Like
out.
I don't understand how people can say.
Dispel boss. Dispel boss.
Are we just taking? What are we getting hit by? I would love to know.
Dispel boss.
It just seems like we're just highly not in the right place, boys.
Why do I feel anyone in sports when every time I do any sports when I win it,
Warriors.
Oh, this is
This warrior probably taking more damage than his fucking tank.
How?
Run out.
Oh my god, I realize this is Zab. Oh, my least favorite of all dungeon unfun.
Dispel boss.
What is happening right now? Oh wait. I think I know. Yeah.
yeah,
I could be wrong.
Dispel
I feel like
boss.
we got
I might have had it before.
Dispel boss.
I truly do believe. I don't have any more screen. Shut up. No mana. You know what? I'm gonna laugh. I think I'm going to. Chill, bro. Okay, relax. I'll always just focus on not dying at this point.
How?
Hey, dude. Hey, dude. You hear me okay?
Yep, look at
Watch your feet.
I'm just for the love of God.
Stop casting.
Shitty ass.
Are you able to hear me? I hear you loud and clear.
Shockwave. Stop casting.
I don't think you can hear it if you're listening to my stream.
Shockwave.
Hello, I think you're listening. Like you're listening to my stream.
Stop casting.
I think you're listening. I think like you're listening to my stream.
I can't hear you on this end. I only hear you when I stream. I don't know why. I'm not
Stop
hearing you.
casting.
I'm not really used to Discord.
Check your user settings. Looks like sound settings. And check out that. Check your user settings. What's this one?
Stop casting.
Help.
Stop casting. Stop casting. Stop casting. Run out. Run out. Shockwave.
Buddy, just let me run. Don't run. Just sit still, buddy. Just sit still. I will move if I have the ricochet. You don't have to move. Don't leave with me, bub. No bueno. Does not work that way.
Shockwave.
Okay, do you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
And I hear you perfectly. Thank you. Sorry for the technical.
That's the lawyer?
No, you're good. All right, how's it going?
Life is good, man. Congrats on the manifesto. That's been a lot of work.
Thanks. Yeah, it was super fun.
Yeah. So yeah, I just wanted to talk to you because you went over a bit of my debate where I was shredded by Ben Shapiro on
Attack
abortion.
totem.
Yeah, I think we can watch that.
Watch your step. Shockwave.
Yeah, because I feel like you seem to have an issue with the view that I was portraying in the video, and I'm just a bit confused at where your disagreement is.
Wait, that's a nature.
So I still hold
Shockwave.
the view I spoke to here about. So
Target you.
What was the view again?
So I was the first guy who spoke up, and my
Attack
position is,
totem.
I think that what makes life valuable is consciousness. I think that will bring like, or just that just brings moral value. Yeah. And I think a sense of
Shockwave.
personal, like again, in particular, like psychological continuity, like the theory. And I think that if you don't have either of those, I do not believe that there's any value to any kind of organism or thing we're talking about.
I would just stick with the first one. I wouldn't bother with the second thing at all. I think.
Yeah, but
Wait, what? Wait, what?
Because what's your view on abortion again? Because I tried watching it later in the video, and I feel like you have to kind of define what you mean by person when we have when we're talking about the subject of abortion.
Yeah, my view of abortion is that I think that the thing that we value in people that makes them people, like worth valuing, are conscious experiences. That's what I go with.
And then of course, like the obvious objection is, then what happens when something does not have a conscious experience like anymore?
So
like,
I think
like,
that once something has a conscious experience, until that conscious experience comes to an end, you ought to respect that conscious experience. A temporary, like, not alleviation.
So it doesn't.
But like
whatever,
when
bro.
something
It's so
temporarily
fucking
goes away, it's coming
stupid, bro.
back. It's already like
I
it's
don't
made an assertion,
understand.
right? So like if you are conscious and then you go to sleep, like you are a conscious thing. You're saying like, hey, like I'm gonna sleep. Don't kill me while I'm sleeping.
So fucking
I think that
ridiculous. It's
ought to be
actually so
respected,
bonkers.
right?
It's just so
That's different,
bonkers,
though,
bro.
than people are saying, well, if you would respect a conscious person's wishes, what about a fetus that isn't conscious yet? That has never been conscious before. There's nothing there to respect. With a conscious person, there was a conscious experience that we ought to respect. With a baby, there hasn't even begun, like there is no conscious experience yet, right? So I think that's
okay, yeah, that's
great.
interesting.
It's awesome. It's
Yeah,
honestly
I guess my kind of confusion, or maybe my issue with that position would be,
I'm ready to tank
what
my
do you
fucking
mean
keys.
by
Let's
saying that had a
go.
conscious experience? Like that seems to be like the big question to me. It's like, well,
I mean, I can only say so much because this is still like one of the greatest mysteries, technically.
Exactly.
Yeah. So there seems to be like mental processes that bring about an awareness of oneself, so that there's something that is that knows what it's like to be. That's very vague, but I mean, like in the broadest terms, that's what consciousness is, right? There's like an experience or an awareness of something that like knows what it's like to be a thing. And it seems like that's the thing in humans that we look for and protect, that once that experience or awareness is gone, we no longer care about it. So for instance, when somebody's brain dead, we don't care about them anymore because we know they're not going to have a conscious experience again. They're not going to wake up. And with all the body parts that we could replace out of a person to get rid of them, once the brain is gone, that's like seems to be like an irreplaceable part because it contains the organs, or organelles maybe you'd say, to give rise to a conscious experience.
Yeah, and I think I mostly agree with you, but I guess the part that I might deviate from it,
actually,
I don't know what you mean by like a continuation of like a conscious experience, because I feel like you're asserting in some sense that it'd be like the same conscious experience, and I just don't know if that's necessarily the case.
That's probably not the case, but I don't think that's relevant. That gets into really weird continuity things. Yeah, like who's the philosopher that said like you can never step into the same river twice?
I know what you mean.
Yeah. So but I don't think that's very relevant because we could arguably say that your consciousness might even change second to second, such that it's not the same thing. But I don't think that's.
It's just been unlucky.
I don't think that's relevant.
Yeah,
it's unfortunate.
I guess, for your view, I guess this would be like kind of like a quick thought experiment objection that I'd come up with. Suppose like I just had like a relative die, like or whatever. Or no, you know what? I'll make it like less connected. Let's say like we found like the corpse, or like Aristotle's dead. It's undisputed. But let's say I kind of created a carbon copy of Aristotle right before he died, and I put like his brain, all the memories that Aristotle experienced were in the exact position before he died. Now this thing right now is unconscious. It hasn't been conscious yet, but there is that identity in there that had a consciousness potentially that had served itself in existence through Aristotle's memories. I feel like with your view, I would have to say, you can kill that carbon copy of Aristotle. I don't have to keep him alive.
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry. Can you walk me through this one more time? Once we get into an area where we can like recreate consciousnesses and can see them, I think a lot of stuff with moral philosophy gets really weird. We would especially see this when it comes to like AIs and stuff. So give me this one more time. I'll try to answer. But you might be hitting like the limits of like metaphysically what I can know about anything. So I'll try my best. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's totally fair response too.
Okay.
Yeah, so like I'm saying, just imagine like I create almost like a clone of Aristotle.
Okay.
And like this clone has all his memories and like mental states before he died.
Okay.
And so I have this, and it's like, okay, should we wake this thing up from its unconscious state?
Like what? Yeah.
Or just like let it die or something like that, or just never let it come up. I feel like with your view, what you said to me originally, it would be totally morally neutral for me just to just not awaken Aristotle.
Yeah,
Whereas
let it die. I think I agree with that.
Sorry?
Yeah, I think you would let it die because that particular thing is distinctly a particular thing that hasn't been awoken yet, and if it hasn't been ever awoken yet, then you're probably okay to do it, right?
I don't know. Like, I guess, like, because this is, again, we might be at, like, kind of a metaphysical break. And I'll go to, like, my position, where I bit the bolt with Shapiro. So, imagine, like, you have a body, right, like, or a person who goes into the coma, and let's say, for whatever reason, the doctors know, yeah, this person is going to have, like, absolutely no memory when they wake up. They're just going to be completely blank. I don't think that it's wrong to, like, not, like, to, like, kill that person or kill that thing. Like,
maybe there's, I don't think I would have I think I would disagree with you, but it wouldn't be a strong disagreement. There's, it was either a moral philosopher or a psychologist. Actually, it might have been Chomsky. I remember somebody said that the dilemma was, let's say that somebody goes into prison for life, but then they develop Alzheimer's. The argument was that it would be immoral to keep a person with no memories of their past self in jail, because it's like a fundamentally different type of like conscious being, which is like an interesting thought experiment.
Yeah.
So like I might agree with you, but during an abortion argument, that's a really bad thing to bring out because people are gonna like smash you with a whole bunch of like, so you should be able to kill grandpa if he blah 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 can't remember things like that.
Look, I've read the comments on that video. I've seen those objections or concerns. Yeah, and I guess like I probably agree with you optically.
Unfortunately, when you're having, depending on the argument, especially if you're like very time constrained, which you are, right? Like you're given a microphone and it's like debate Ben Shapiro. It's like, oh shit.
Yeah, exactly.
You're super time constrained and you're like in the most emotional fucking argument to conservatives in the world, trying to hit like really big philosophical topics that's like a super rough thing to do in the moment. So I would never, opening myself up to having to bite those types of bullets, you're always going to like look bad rhetorically and never be persuasive, which I think is rough. I think, I don't know if you were the one that did it or it was somebody else, but I think the biggest argument that I had a problem with was the idea that like having friends or family like gives you... Yeah. Were you the one that made that argument?
So I mentioned that as a kind of, yes.
Because I feel like that one leaves you open to like, well, what about like a loner? And it's like, oh, well, we can, like a guy that lives in the forest. Like, do we really get moral value from like having friends and family? Yeah, go ahead.
So I would say like why I think that is. So I think that's weakly relevant. So like, suppose like you were in the state that you were in a coma, you have no memories or anything like that. But let's say for whatever reason, like your parents are like, no, we still want this thing around. I still feel like that's my son. I don't want you to kill him or kill what that body is. I think that relationship is relevant, and I think she should have some right to like, no, don't do that, because we have things that aren't conscious, that still or moral value because they're connected to things with consciousness.
True.
Like
I would be careful for that though, because like, so I agree with you. This is why. So people say like, oh, so do you think you should be able to fuck corpses? Like, well, I think a corpse belongs to the estate that it gets passed on to. Yeah, exactly. That's my argument for protecting corpses.
Yeah, exactly. But if someone put it in their will, hey, anyone can this corpse, and say, well, go ahead, man.
But in that case, though, you're relying on an external source for value, and they could revoke that value. So would we ever say that like a mother should be able to kill a child because if the child is asleep or something, because you know the mother's the one that's saying protect it? So if the mother says she no longer cares about protecting it, now all of a sudden it's okay to kill it. Like, probably don't want to leave that type of moral decision up to like another party. We probably would have a more universal concept there, I would imagine.
Oh yeah, and I agree with that. I'm just saying that that could be a relevant moral factor. The child who's asleep, I would argue, still has a continuity view where it's like, it is something to be like, you know, let's say like Jacob, like the son. Like he's connected to his memories that bring him back to, that's who he is. So, well, no, you just can't, even if the mom wants to kill Jacob, Jacob is still a person. But if Jacob doesn't have the memories, and if Jacob doesn't have, is not conscious, I don't know what, I think it would be fine for the mother to do that then, yeah.
Yeah, maybe. It gets weirder there, but I never, like, if you're having an abortion argument, you're probably already dealing with somebody that has pretty shitty views of, like, consciousness or any of these, like, higher level questions. So I think you're getting into really fucked up, like, bullet biting territory there that's gonna, like, super fuck you if you have, like, a limited time to make an argument, I think. That's what I'm pushing at.
Yeah, I was a bit like, so this was a few years ago. I was 21 then. I was more idealistic.
Oh, that video was a few years old?
Dude, that video was from 2018.
Oh, I didn't even know.
Yeah, no, that's from 2018. So I thought, like, you know, I was like, oh, you know, Ben Shapiro's a smart guy. He'll be good faith to me. He's gonna engage. I'm sure he's kind of heard of these concepts before. You know, that's not the route he chose to go, unfortunately for me.
Yeah, when it comes to, I don't know.
4,
No,
3,
that's not even true. I was gonna say when it comes to like
1.
social topics like psychology or philosophy, conservatives don't know anything. But it seems like they don't know much about harder scientific topics either. They're very like religiously dogmatic, and sometimes that masquerades as like scientism, but it's really not. I would have to think hard about where conservatives even get their views for, because they're not informed by anything intellectual. It's almost always going to be something spiritual or religious, but somehow they've gotten away with masquerading that as like scientific. Like, facts don't care about your feelings. Well, what kind of facts? My theological ones. Like, what? Okay. So yeah, that's never going to be the case, unfortunately.
No, yeah, and I totally agree with that. And I think like because I think in all of their arguments, for better or for worse, there's this like this weird shoehorning of a soul, and a lot of times they'll say something like unique human DNA to kind of masquerade that.
Yeah. The soul argument is going to be the one that they're truly, they might possibly like present like what seems like their defense is like a soul to like DNA, but I was gonna say I don't know if they would believe DNA exists. I'm not sure what they're
Yeah, like I've recently like so I'm a philosopher.
Shockwave.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to my final year, and I found that I'm like a lot of like religious people, not in just the abortion debate, but in specifically that, will be resting on kind of like this core religious view, and I found recently that it's actually kind of fun and probably a good tactic in debate to get them to give a good argument for A, the existence of God, and B, some religious claim that they can like back up that's realistically to be true. Because if you're basing your moral decisions on something that's either happened or didn't happen, like God either exists or he doesn't exist, or Jesus rose from the dead or he didn't, I think it's really good to put pressure on them that to prove that in that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that.
Watch your step.
I think I would disagree with you. So I think I would disagree on, unfortunately, I think I would disagree on a social cohesion level, because like you probably need to have a society that works that can reconcile like different like meta positions. Like I would argue, religion probably influences your it probably heavily influences your metaphysical understanding of the world. Probably heavily influences your meta-ethical understanding of the world for sure, and it might even influence your epistemic view of the world. So we have like a lot of like super fundamental disagreements on like what is knowledge, how is the world constructed, where does goodness come from, but we still have to like be able to live together in a society and like work with each other. So even if they have disagreements, we should probably still argue with how they think, right? Otherwise, like because I think the scary thing is you might run into some. If you happen to run into like the really well-read, which should never happen, but the really well-read Christian and they're like, oh, okay, fine, you're right. You know, maybe I shouldn't build my worldview on God. Like, can you give me a rock solid 100% justification for your meta ethics? The way you would have been able to me. I think you could very quickly find out, like, fuck, we're both at bedrock, unless you're, yeah, like, it feels like you're fucked there, no? Or what do you think?
Yeah, so I would say, like, there is actually, like, really good, there's kind of like 3 main arguments for God's existence that I think are worth, like, looking into, which should be, like, the modal logic, ontological argument. I think it fails though. But any cosmological argument or argument from design, and I think that if atheists or people who have more secular views in general really took the time to, like, study these, understand them, there's some pretty good knockdown points which the Christians or religious people might try to hold on to. Because it's not that you just have to prove to them that it's necessarily not true. You just have to give them reason to think that it's not so obviously true. Because I think when you're, you know, it's like the Carl Sagan line, extraordinary claims need extraordinary evidence or justification. And if they don't have that, I think it's a lot easier to show that than people do. Even if you're dealing with a well-read Christian, I would say you should just probably be well-read in the argument.
Yeah, I guess, but then at that point, if you are against a well-read Christian, they start pulling out, like, these, like, cosmological teleological arguments. They start pulling out, like, the finest stuff. Like, I guess, are you about to, like, are you trying to make them out of their religion? Like, that's probably, you probably that seems like a really difficult trip.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I wouldn't say it's actually the religion, but I think all you have to do is prove that there's really strong objections to, like, Aquinas' first mover argument with, like, cosmology. Right?
Sure.
Like, if you can do that, I think you're doing a lot. Like, if you can just give them objections that they can't really, like you know, be able to push away in that moment, if you're kind of pushing them to, like, this kind of, look, they really are arguing on this faith.
Of course. Although they won't be shy to admit that. Some of them will say, like, yeah, you know what?
And then if they say that, I'd be like, okay, then that should not be influencing your decision when it comes to government and, like, things like abortion.
Have you ever seen, like, have you seen It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia? The Science is a Lie sometimes.
Oh yeah, I have.
I think you move into arguments there, though, where they say, like, oh, well, I have faith just like you do. And you'll be like, well, what do you mean I have faith? Like, it's like, well, like, you know, you don't actually study it as a scientist firsthand. Like, you don't go to the laboratories and do the measurements. Like, you trust what some of the scientists say. I trust what I feel from God. Epistemically, it's not 100% the same, but I feel like it's going to be really hard at some point to, like, nail out differences, right? Because to some extent, it is true that we have some level of faith in, like, engineers and scientists, right? And they'll just say, well, I have faith in God. And then at some point, it's going to, like, go back to, like, their, like, you'll be like, I trust engineers because I turn on my car every fucking day and it works, okay? I have proof. And, you know, that's like, well, I trust God because I prayed to him and guided me. I've been a really good person in decision because of that personal revelation from him. And I'm like, okay, fuck, like, what the fuck way to say this way? It just feels like it's a really, I don't know, I try to avoid religious arguments at all points because, like, it seems like a really good, just, like, argues against religion. That's what it feels like to me.
And yeah, I'm sympathetic to that. I just think, like, there is more, like, there is really good responses to things like that when they say, well, I have faith, I make all these personal decisions. Because, you know, there's obvious objections to it. It's like, well, what would you say to the Muslim who says the same thing? Or say to, like, a Hindu who says a similar thing? Like, you would knock down those arguments. You would say, it's a different, like, you know, no, that's not really God, you're just imagining things. Or it's not my God.
Yeah, although, again, I'd say you gotta be careful because they say, oh, well, you want to point to the Hindus and Muslims. Obviously, some sort of God in the world, maybe just somebody has especially if you're in a monotheist country, right? It's like, well, Muslims are just a little bit confused, but, like, Muslims are far more confused, right? Maybe make it person.
Yeah, that's true. And then I guess I would say something like, yeah, that may be true, but, like, a naturalistic explanation is just as likely. And it seems like through the history of science, the naturalistic explanation has seemed to be more likely than the religious one. Like, you know, when it's thunder, it says God's angry. We seem to knock out all these religious views. So why would it be different this time? Why would you appeal to more of a supernatural explanation when the natural explanation is just as likely? Quite simply.
I don't want to run down every religion. Like, yeah, I mean, I understand what you're saying. Just, I don't know. I feel like there are.
Yeah, and this has been something that I've noticed with like, especially like I think like like Michael Knowles and things like that, they'll always like kind of pull out the religion, and I think it might be beneficial some more people who are secular kind of really studied up on these kinds of arguments and were able to like really push back on it. I think they'll kind of pull out these like vague religious arguments like, oh, Aquinas' first mover argument, and it kind of all of them are. Yeah, it doesn't take much to really poke holes, but I think like for a lot of seculars, when they bring it out, they're like, oh fuck, I can't take that argument apart right now. You have to kind of study it. Like you have to know the objections on hand. Because they're tricky. They're not. I don't think they're good, but they're tricky arguments. So yeah, I guess that's something that I wish people did more. Because I think philosophy and religion's a really interesting topic
Watch your feet.
So, Yeah. But yeah.
Anything else?
No, I guess it sounds like we kind of mostly, at least kind of agree on the abortion issue. Like for the most part, I agree with you from an optics point of view. But I guess like when I was speaking to Shapiro, that wasn't my intention wasn't to come across good optically. I was just like testing my idea against him, who I still think. I think in terms of conservatives, I think Ben Shapiro is a smart guy. Like I know a lot of people on the left like to pretend he's kind of an idiot. I don't think he is. I think he's obviously quite intelligent.
I don't know anymore. I try to give some of these guys credit.
Watch your step.
I don't know.
Yeah.
This is my day.
I agree. Shapiro has gotten worse over the years.
Feels like a lot of them have.
Oh, I feel like Trump kind of fucked us.
Watch your step.
And then just destroyed whatever's left of it. And now they're just, like I even remember after the 2020 election, like the election night, when everyone on the Daily Wire was like, good on Trump for saying like they should call the election now. And Shapiro called them out. He's like, no, that's stupid. Like Trump shouldn't be saying the election's rigged before there's any evidence of that. So I have some hope. But what are you gonna do?
Well, we'll see when the next election season rolls around.
Exactly. But and just before I get going, so the school I go to is UBC in Vancouver.
Oh, okay.
And I know you said you're more interested in doing things like on campus and things like that. So I'm affiliated with the Philosophy Association of UBC. And I'm kind of my role is to kind of facilitate debate for the term. And if you would be interested at all, you'd be somebody I'd be really interested in bringing out. And I think what could be good too is Lauren Southern's came to the campus before too, and I've met her.
Was she the one that got was that the campus that she went to do last time and got kicked out of because they didn't want the grave arguments going on there?
Yeah, she was booted out, but the reason why she was booted out because it was because the group, the club that she's running it couldn't supply security. They definitely did things wrong on like the bureaucratic stuff. They did with the dick stuff.
I'm getting dick to the dick, bro.
It just was on in a different location. Like I was there when it happened.
Did it?
Yeah.
Where did it end up happening at?
There's like a local church like right by the campus that just happened at, and like everyone who had tickets to the event.
Not being attracted to trans people is transphobic.
I guess it wasn't
should be fired from their jobs. Should someone lose their job / be fired?
I'm sorry, repeat that last one again?
I guess it technically wasn't on campus, but it was like 5 minutes outside of campus, and it was everyone who signed up for the event went.
Gotcha, interesting. Okay, I didn't know that. I thought it just got canceled.
Yeah, no, there's still talk. Actually, that was funny. I emailed you about objections to Lauren Southern.
Oh, interesting. Gotcha.
Yeah,
probably would have been a bad person to ask. But I feel like when she was initially doing research for that, I was looking into a lot of those arguments too. I don't know how you feel about it, but it kind of does seem like that higher thing.
That was your step. That was my impression. But I guess my argument with Lauren wasn't so much of, okay, like what are the facts of this case? Mine were more like, I was like, well, what are you doing? Because my argument to her was, you're right, there might actually be some like unfactual things about these mass graves who just found. But what doesn't change the fact is that residential schools are horrible. many people died. They were an awful atrocity in Canada. We used to have a cultural genocide. Like, these are all true.
Okay,
And
wait, hold on. What are you studying philosophy?
What am I studying in particular?
Yeah.
So I ended up taking a lot more ethics courses than I particularly would have thought, but philosophy of science is my main interest. Yeah.
I'm sure you've probably read literally more on every single thing. Okay, so whatever I bring up, we're sure we'll know. But we really like philosophy of language. We really like how words work. Okay?
Yeah.
One thing that I have a problem with, and it's happening more and more, is that when people are choosing words, people are looking for words. We're not choosing words based on their description of the world. We're choosing words based on their moral weight. So let's say, for instance, I find a 28-year-old person, okay? And this 28-year-old person has a sexual relationship with a 17-year-old person, okay? When I hear about that, the feeling I get is one of, like, wow, I'm disgusted. So how do I describe that? Well, it's not enough to say that, like, like an older guy abuses power, you know, bad relationship dynamics, underage person.
Did I miss a
I'm going for,
fucking
like,
word
what
or
are the
something?
big words that are really bad? Pedophile, child fucker, kitty fucker.
Yeah, exactly.
These are
yeah.
the words
Right.
that I reach for, yeah. And I feel like this is happening with everything, to where, like, oh, this guy disagrees with me, he's a fascist. Why do I choose fascist? Not because most people that say fascist don't even know what fascism is, but it has a lot of moral weight behind it. And when we talk about, like, the grave thing in Canada, like, Indigenous kids
he just got
were
one shot.
mass murdered and thrown into mass
150K.
graves. Like, everything that was just said there, it's just like a moralizing thing. None of it actually happened. But then it's like, well, how do we justify that? Well, I mean, there was a lot of really bad stuff that happened. And it's like, okay, yeah, that's true. But nothing that you just said was true. Sure, but it conveys the moral gravity of what happened. And it's like, well, fuck. I don't think that's good.
Yeah, and so I totally agree with that. And I bring that up too when people talk about. I think it's really important to be accurate with what we're talking about, especially when it comes to things like this. And I know I use the term cultural genocide, but like I think from a cultural standpoint, that it's hard to argue we didn't, at least in the late 19th century, early 20th century. But I guess my more objection to Lauren was that, like, it seemed really weird to me. And maybe this is wrong with me, that someone she had a history of, I think, making, like, I'd say kind of racist comments, like, or at least quasi-white nationalists, in, like, the actual sense of the word.
Yeah.
And then she's coming and say, like, hey, look, all these facts about the mass graves aren't necessarily true. Like, look what everyone's getting wrong. It's like, yeah, you might be right. But if somebody had, like, a history of, like, anti-Semitism, and then they're like, hey, look at this one subset of facts that was qualified. Like, totally, like, you know, it's not completely true. Like, look at this. I'd be like, yeah, you could be right, but my intent is still up. Like, well, what's the point of it? Like that.
Yeah, I think that would be a really good question.
That's what I asked her.
Well, I think it would be a really good question if you wanted to make a personal indictment of character.
Watch your step.
Motives. But I don't know if that would be appropriate in a forum where the topic is about whether or not a particular thing happened. Because, as you said, like, whether it happened or not is kind of irrelevant with her history. She could have literally been like an indigenous bounty hunter who murdered indigenous people on behalf of the government. It really wouldn't change the fact of the matter of anything she's saying, right? And there might be appropriate time to an indictment of somebody's character, right? Like, if she came to give a personal speech, or you just wanted to create videos, and this is why I think this person is moral and ethical, or maybe even why you can make a video, even if the person's right, I think they're the right person to talk about this issue.
Watch your step.
But in a conversation about whether a thing happened or not, I think that an attack on their character is in the literal philosophical sense of it. An attempt to dismiss their argument as character, which I think is probably not good, given that I think it was legitimate to question the narrative because it did cause, like, very real material harm and political harm in Canada. Right? There were at least 6 churches, I think, burned completely to the ground, and then like 40 or 50 others like vandalized, largely in response to
AOE incoming.
It seems like just completely fabricated.
And I do agree
Watch
with
your
that.
step.
I guess at the time I was more skeptical of the facts from mass graves. Like, I was still, like, I was agnostic, and I think, like, I guess I'm more sensitive to, especially in light of like the COVID stuff, is Like,
Yeah,
look,
no.
I don't have the time or probably even the mental capabilities of being able to, like, you know, when I hear arguments about, like, the mass grave or something like, you know, 9/11, and it's hard sometimes to know, like, what's conspiratorial or, like, how honest is this person?
Sure.
Like,
we actually
I'm like,
going on
like, Lauren, you could be right,
I don't know
but,
what's going on there.
like, what are you not, is there something
Watch
you're
your
not telling
step.
me? Are you leaving something out? And that's, like, kind of what it felt like it was.
Sure, which is totally fair, because when she first brought it up, I assumed instantly, I was like, you're probably exaggerating this particular because I think she'll do that on certain topics that, like, very obviously is in her political views, where it's like, okay, like, I'm sure you believe this, but, like, let's check the source and see what's actually going on.
Yeah.
Which is what I ended up doing for the indigenous, but it's still important to check those to see, like, well, are they making a truthful argument?
I agree, and I think like after the fact, I guess my worry in the situation was it's like, okay, she just made all these like kind of factual statements that may or may not be
Watch
true
your
about
step.
the mass grave, and I just wanted to cast some doubt because I don't think anyone in that room had the knowledge or has researched enough to be able to quickly like dismiss what she said or to be able to have like reasonable objections. So it's kind of like, okay, look, you have a history of sometimes being dishonest or having less than like, you know, savory views. So like this, like we're just putting this in check. Like there might be reason to doubt this.
Sure, but then if that was the case, wouldn't the time better be spent like looking up the facts of the matter rather than just like trying to character assassinate people that maybe they're wrong? Because it seems like a lot of people dismissed that.
One second.
Watch your step.
Oh, I fucking missed by an inch. Missed by an inch. I don't know what happened. Why?
Okay, sorry, what were you saying?
Wouldn't it be better to spend the time that you have either speaking or researching to like try to figure out the fact of the matter then, rather than like trying to character assassinate and then hoping that you end up being right by chance because the other person might have biases that might make you right?
Yeah, probably, but like in a lot of senses, that's always easier said than done. Like, because like when I get there, to,
Watch
like,
your
the
step.
event, I don't know what kind of facts he's necessarily going to bring up.
Well, but I mean, well, we know that like we know what it's about, right? It's going to be about the indigenous kid stuff. So like, isn't that what he's about or researching about?
Yeah, that's true. But sometimes, you know what like information bombing is, right?
I mean, I can guess by the word.
Yeah, exactly. Or like they just like kind of like bring tons of information. Like they just
What do
spit
we
out
want,
a bunch
bitch?
of facts like in their speech. It's like,
What do we
okay, now
want?
it's like, well, I can't
You got a
sit
whole
here
turtle.
and like object to like every
3
single thing that you just
seconds.
said.
2
I
seconds.
can kind of agree with you when it comes to like, this is why I debate like certain
Yeah.
because I need to know everything in advance. Otherwise, I don't know what you're gonna do. But like, here's a simple fact of the matter: of, like, are the mass graves real? Like, I don't think you have to worry about like they can't like if you have like proof of that. I don't know if they can information
It's
bomb
definitely
you
still
too much
doable.
there,
It's just
but
fucking really cancer.
otherwise, it feels like the worry that I get is that like if I take everything you said and I assume that these are decent arguments, you've kind of given me like you've given me a free pass to basically write off any opinion that I don't like as long as I can prove that the person that has that opinion is part of some group or did something that I disagree with.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Like I think you're totally right in that aspect. And this is not to say that I'm a lone Southern hater, for the record. I talked to her thereafter. She seemed like a really cool person socially. Hang out with, even if I don't really agree with what she says. But she seems like a fine person overall. I grew up in the same areas. But yeah, no, I agree with what you're saying. But I guess like I think in like especially during the COVID era, and I guess this is my mindset. It can be a lot to ask sometimes people do that, especially like we have like more of an anti-COVID, like anti-vaccine. It's awesome to be researched on this too, but we need to be able to like kind of like just push back.
Okay.
To the next.
I kind of I would agree with you in general, but I wouldn't agree with you. You should be able to. Because if you're like one of the people that is unsophisticated, it's like what do people exactly like?
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I guess like my initial like kind of like
Watch your
apprehension to get super familiar with it is that like because I remember they talked a lot about like ground, like raiding things like under the ground to like find images. Like it seemed really scientific, and that is not my expertise, like at all. And it would never. And in situations like that, I usually refer to like the expert testimony. I'll just refer to them. And there seems to be a lot of expert testimony out at that time. And Lauren Southern's not an expert at this. And that's, I guess, is more of my initial kind of like apprehension too. Because yeah, I agree with you. If it's stuff that I can, like with the COVID stuff, it's like we had like a doctor from the BBC who was like incredibly anti-vax.
Okay.
And it's like, well, like, look, I understand your arguments, but like.
Oh wait, what was his name? Do you know?
Stephen.
Bam! Is he the one? There was one Canadian doctor who was like he was like one of the his big thing was that he kept trying to say that spike proteins in the vaccine would bend themselves all over your body.
No shot.
Nanolipid particles can penetrate into your brain and it would show up everywhere. I can't remember if this was the guy, but I remember there was one Canadian doctor that was like a really bam. I wonder if it was. Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it was not.
Okay.
His was more of like natural immunity is just as valid.
Gotcha.
And but he felt the vaccine was invalid though too. So it's kind of like what's the point of him talking about that?
I can understand about like I would agree. I think it's worth it to look into particular things. I would agree with you for vaccine. I've had to read a ton of shit and learn about a ton of stuff. But the research to the Ask Brave stuff was like pretty simple. Like all the stuff that I read, like this is like all the facts that I need to know. Ground penetration scan, you can't find bodies. What you can find are things that show up that are inconsistent and might be bodies. And all the places that the ground penetration scans found bodies were places that were previously known to be cemeteries. Those are like the two most important facts that I found. So if given that both of those are true, and then fast forwarding to today,
I'm trying to get this
guy
guy rooted, bro.
Not a single body has been exhumed in any of these places, and nobody now is contesting. Like we haven't found any new facts. Bam! None of that ever seemed to happen. It seems hard to imagine what scientific facts could exist that would change that.
And I think I agree with that. Like that's the most likely answer. Like so I went like so much, but yeah, you know what? You're probably right. It was probably a mix of laziness and incompetence that made me want to research the math much because it seemed more complicated than it actually been.
How about wait? There's stuff happening right now on my screen. I can't let you in right now.
It is like it happened. Like I would consider myself very, very, very well read on like vaccines and all of that shit. I see so much research on this, and also like here's the new anti-vax argument. Like what the fuck is ADA? Bam!
It's definitely
the idea that you can theoretically create a vaccine that causes the virus to adapt in a way that actually makes it stronger versus weaker.
No.
It wasn't the idea, I don't know what it's called, but like yeah, there are a lot of these like really fringe concepts that are like never brought up, and if you haven't researched it in advance, you're like, fuck, I don't even know what the fuck this is now. So, like I'm sympathetic towards, towards what you're saying.
But yeah, but you are right. Like that sort of like apprehension to those topics. That's just not true for every subject. You're right. There's really only so many objections you can probably bring up to like the ground penetration. Right? Like there's not going to be this like new fringe study from Micronesia that's going to disprove it or prove it. Like you don't have to really worry about that kind of stuff. But yeah, I guess I've always been. Especially like now that like I'm in my last year of university, I realize I know a lot less than I actually thought I did, like little stuff like that. I really want to focus more. Like I try to more focus on things that like I feel that I'm really well read on, really well educated. I know a lot of things about like personal identity, consciousness. I think I know more than like the average bear at least. Like those are things I kind of try to stick towards more now. Or philosophy and religion. Like I feel like I could pretty handily have a conversation with almost anyone now about the existence of God and be able to hold them and stuff. Yeah, so yeah, you're probably right though. I probably am wrong to do that to poor Lauren's son. But anyway, it was a fun time. I had a good time.
Alright, well hey, anything else?
No, but yeah, if you're like I just said there, if you ever you're interested in coming to the Pacific Northwest in Vancouver, and maybe I can sit with you and Lawrence and stuff.
I'll keep that in mind, okay.
Alright, buddy, you have a good one. Happy.
I like all my conservative fans in YouTube chat that are like, oh, ADE is now a fringe topic. ADE isn't fringe, LeMayo. I would bet my fucking life that you've never fucking heard about that in your entire life until either Rogan or that Dr. Malone guy or somebody else brought that up. It was like, oh yeah, I know everything about immunology and all of these like topics related. Bull fucking shit, motherfucker. That's the fact that you would even pretend that. Todd Sullivan and fucking and Puppy Gups and fucking YouTube chat, fucking Kino, my dude. Okay, dude. Oh, antibody dependent cancer? Of course. Yeah, I remember learning about that in grade school. Okay, dude.
Maybe it's not. I don't know. I don't understand what I do. They shouldn't take that.
What lightning strike whole house boss? Wait, lightning can strike your shit?
The last boss is, I think, the hardest part of this whole dungeon.
Target you.
There was a conspiracy that was spread for a while that ADE is this concept that you might create a vaccine, you could create antibodies, that the antibodies find the target receptors of the virus, and they plug in, but they don't actually kill the virus. So what you've done is you've created antibodies that have now plugged in where other antibodies that would kill the virus or identify the macrophages, whatever would be, but now they're not working. So you supercharge the virus with nothing to kill it because you plugged up all the holes so you could have got antibodies in there to do it, and other viruses able to like move with impunity through the bodies. But antibody-dependent enhancement is something that's like this is always checked for when you're creating vaccines. People were acting like this was new with the SARS-CoV-2 vaccines are creating super COVID-19 and they're supercharging this. Nobody thought about ADE. Nobody even. That's personal.
Target you.
Power, that's certainly how I see you. I see nothing original. Yo, I can see blah, blah. Bro, you claimed ivermectin was a near-perfect prophylaxis. Turns out it doesn't work. If it doesn't work, then why not run an honest trial that reveals the failure? Why not do an independent meta-analysis and let the chips fall? There have been so many trials on ivermectin at this point. What do you mean? Before RCT came out recently, having a fact, it's very obvious to everyone for any trial competition you and Marinos Galachon to a supposed flaw called fraudulent. It is transparent. The Vistro ivermectin RCT, one of the, it seemed like it was a decent recent study, was the whole data set was fake. Or at the very least, large amounts of work, because you could go through and see where they'd copy-pasted charts from one patient to another. It was like very obvious that it was fake.
Up, up. Up, up. Big baby. Come on, up, up.
Do you think we should start recording with people? Not like...
What's your feet?
It seems like a little fucked up.
Shot
Somebody
wave.
donated and said, if not being attacked at trans people is transphobic and trans people are from their jobs, should someone lose their job simply for not being attracted to trans people? I don't think to believe that's good yet, but who knows?
Watch your feet.
I think this should be recorded. Here's my mind for it. If I saw a conservative tweeting this out, would it make me uncomfortable? If I saw Steven Crowder tweeting shit like this out, I don't think I'd be okay with it. I'd report it. Fuck him. If I were to tweet out a funny joke with my shotgun, I would get banned.
Who is the fucking dumb shit? I think we're gonna have to one shot this NPI for. Oh shit.
someone say a DAE. When the antibodies generated during an immune response recognize and bind to a pathogen, but they are unable to prevent infection. I am well educated. Too bad I cannot read anything except the writing
Watch your
on the
step.
wall.
Shockwave. Shockwave. Watch your step.
I question about the chemicals brigading thing. The benefits section, you mentioned cleaning the block is getting so that it might have harassment. Call you linking in DGG chat brigading or no? If I'm linking you things for people to report, it's kind of like brigading, yeah. Transport requires access to those first contact.
Wait, why is this block?
Actually, yeah. Wait, give me the Giga Chat picture, please. Yeah, oh, okay, blocked it.
Empowered.
Why do people... I shouldn't have clicked that. I shouldn't have.
Watch your step.
I see the word. Oh, it's this tweet. I don't know why people are so pissed about neo-pronouns. The pronouns we use now are already made up. I mean, in that case, every single word is technically made up. Like, technically all of them, right? I mean, like...
Watch your step.
Wait, this is fake.
Papa, up. You can go up. You can get on the bed. I'm not gonna be mad. I promise. Okay?
Destiny, why not? Watch a generation.
1 minute.
Video.
There's like seconds.
This
is the second intermission, so 30%, and we
There's
have
a
to wait
weird
for this
cut.
phase to finish.
Like, why is there that cut? It makes me wonder.
Watch your step.
Working class handy.
And, yeah, how is this so low resolution? It's fucking 2022. Like, the shittiest phone in the world has like a 12K, 7,000 megapixel sensor to capture like shots on. No, like. Brazil. Put out reads like this.
Watch your step.
No way. No. No.
You're an actual fucking monster. Don't talk to me about health. Don't talk to me about any type of pain. I bet every morning for the last fucking month I've been taking cold showers. Go take a cold shower. I bet you'll give up on day 2. Do you know how much mental strength it is to take a cold shower? Yes. Don't. It sounds ridiculous. Bro. Oh my god.
I will use. It sounds like his brain got poisoned by like every red pill. Like, I sit on a metal stool every day when I game because life isn't about enjoying every single thing. Even if I'm playing video games, I don't want them to make me weak. Like, it sounds like he's been like mind fucked by like every possible red pill.
Nobody takes cold showers because they don't like the feeling of being uncomfortable. You don't like the feeling of being uncomfortable. That's why you're stuck in your room streaming every day, because you don't want to feel uncomfortable. It's easy sitting and ordering food all day and getting people to do work for you rather than going out and explore yourself.
Even when you streamed, you went like 3 hours a day, twice a week. Don't talk to me about fucking discipline. Even in the times that were easy, you still find a way.
You might as well die.
Yes, people like Destiny.
Hello, what's going on, everyone? Phil here, and welcome to Ask.
I'll be right back.
You good? Are you fine now? We were whining, you big baby. Is everything fine? Were you having some anxiety or something, Papa? What were you? Were you being a big baby? Were you just being a little bit of a baby? I bet that. Yeah. Now you're gonna come out with me.
King. I believe this is episode 91.
God, I love
I
DSP.
want to say
He is my. He is the best
Ask the
streamer.
King is my dedicated Q&A show. Unlike my daily live streams, where usually we have a podcast, we talk about a variety of topics, and I answer your questions, and then we go into gameplay. And yes, I also answer your questions during the gameplay. This is my
How can he do
ongoing
both?
legacy show, which is absolutely dedicated to answering your questions from my forums, from my members here on DSP Gaming on YouTube, and also from my Twitter account. So this show has been running over a decade at this point.
Jesus.
It's
Impressive.
one of the longest running shows of all time. That's when people ask me, well, why do you still do Ask the King? It's because it is one of my longest running things. It's a tradition. People like it. There's been a few times over the years I've actually questioned its existence, and I'm like, do we really need to keep doing this show? To which I get the response, yes. Yes, you need to keep doing it. If you don't do it, we'll be very upset with you. Like, this has happened over the years. You're like, how dare you even suggest that you would not continue Ask the King? So, we're continuing on. All right, today, many questions to be answered from patrons, from channel members, from just, you know, random people who posted on my forums, dspgaming.com, and for people who this morning posted to my Twitter at they call me DSP. I have no clue. Okay. All right. Now, the second question from GTD Gamer. This is going to be a short and sweet answer for you, because you probably don't know about my history with this particular topic.
So here, back later.
Get ready for drama.
Take a break.
Okay, drama.
There is a YouTuber and streamer called Destiny
That's
who's been doing some good interviews and discussions with content creators.